Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. As we continue with Part 11, An Outline of Symbolism from Mystic Masonry by J.D. Buck. Chapter 9, An Outline of Symbolism. A man standing by a horizontally revolving wheel might be taken as a symbol of every vessel made of clay, whether for honor or dishonor. Every detail of ornament or of shape might hold a legend, an allegory, or a parable, or indicate a use. But the potter at his wheel would be a universal and all-including symbol, a pictorial expression of creative thought in man. The Chinese written language is nothing more than symbolical writing, each of its several thousand letters being a symbol. This pictorial expression of an idea or a thought, this art speech, is symbolism. When the symbols are of familiar things and as various as human experience, the knowledge conveyed is common. When the symbols are few and simple, whether commonplace or grotesque, like a point, a circle, or a square, or a dragon, or a man with horns, the knowledge conveyed is not for the masses, but for him alone who holds the key. Take the following simple series: a point as seen here, a circle as seen here, a point within a circle as seen here, the circle horizontally divided as seen here, the lower half again divided as seen here, the upper half divided as seen here, a cross within the circle as seen here, the cross alone as seen here, and we have the series emanating from the point and the circle. If now any process in nature can be found to unfold in the same orderly manner, then any one of the series of symbols would be found to symbolize a definite stage in the process of nature. Hence, the meaning of the symbol would expand, just in proportion as one's knowledge of the natural process increased. If nature's planes are 7, and each plane 7-fold, there would come to be groups of symbols pertaining to each plane and a key to each group. Take, for example, the symbol as seen here. Aside from the philosophical meaning as the third in the series, as seen here, of Mother Nature within infinitude, it represents a universal law of proportion and the exact mathematical ratio of the circumference to its diameter throughout nature, applicable alike to the circle of a pinhead or a sun. Here, then, would be a symbol in mathematics or geometry, correlating space and time with form and proportion. Such a symbol would, however, have little meaning except to the philosopher or the mathematician. To the latter, the following Greek, or the proportion 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 9, or to the Kabbalistic 113, 355, would at once recall the original symbol and the whole series. If, in addition, our mathematician knew the different ratios of vibration incident to the 3 planes of evolution, represented by as seen here, he would have the key to occult physics and could forecast results, measure effects, and induce changes beyond the ordinary plane of crude matter. The simple series to which I have referred will illustrate the whole science of symbolism. Added to this science of symbolism, there is an archaic art speech, by the use of which a double meaning is given to language, so that the most ordinary form of speech may be used to convey a deep scientific or philosophical meaning. This gives rise to the allegory and parable, the outer form of which may convey to the ignorant a lesson in ethics and to the learned a principle in science. The most complicated form of this symbolism and art speech known to modern times is perhaps the Jewish Kabbalah, from which most of the glyphics of Freemasonry are derived. The object of the present work is not to explain all these symbols, for that would require a volume on symbolism and have but little value when written except to the curious. Perhaps the most familiar symbol of a Mason is the square and compass, found in every lodge and worn as a badge of fraternal recognition. We are told in the lodge that the square is an instrument with which the practical Mason measures and lays out his work. But we as free and accepted Masons are taught to make use of it for the more noble and glorious purpose of squaring our conduct with the golden rule, with principles of right and justice, etc. So also with the compass. The practical use is made symbolical of the higher moral obligation to circumscribe our desires and keep our passions within due bounds. But Masonry is a system of morals illustrated by symbols and something more. And there is hence a science and a philosophy concealed in the symbolism of the square and compass. This may be outlined as follows. The square, with its one right angle and its scale of measurements, applies to surfaces and solids, and deals with the apparently fixed states of matter. It represents solidarity, symmetry, and proportion, and this involves the sciences of arithmetic and geometry. The compass with movable angle set in the lodge at an angle of 60 degrees applies to the circle and the sphere, to movements and revolutions. In a general sense, the square is a symbol of matter and the earth, the compass of spirit and the heavens. In the lodge, the square and compass cross each other, and this fact is made a symbol of progression from the degree of entered apprentice to that of master. The compass is set at an angle of 60 degrees and is representative of the movements of spirit, and if crossed at a certain distance from the angle, will produce an equilateral triangle. The three angles and the three sides equal, it now represents perfect equilibrium or proportion. For the apprentice, the points of the compass are beneath the square. For the fellow craft, one is above and one beneath. For the master, both are dominant and have rule, control, and empire over the symbol of the earthly and material. If the reader now refers to what was said in a previous chapter concerning the descent of spirit into matter, and the first trinity represented by a triangle, matter, force, and spirit, or law, and in man, manas, buddhi, and atma, he will readily see that the compass may fairly represent this primary trinity concealed under the square of matter, till by progression it emerges and finally in the master's hands gains dominion over matter. In the man of ignorance or sin, the spirit is concealed and the body and its passions hold dominion. This is the state of the neophyte or entered apprentice. In the fellow craft's degree, the symbols are interlaced, and in the master's, matter is subordinated to spirit. The lectures on the several degrees explain the method by which the compass, or spirit, may gain dominion over the square, or body and passion, through the greater activity of spirit, in circumscribing our desires and keeping our passions within due bounds. The perfect equilibrium of spirit and matter is symbolized by the six-pointed star, which is again only another form of the square and compass, each now having a baseline from which to form a triangle. Enclose the star in a circle, which symbolizes infinity, and you symbolize the harmony or at one-ment of the spirit that descended and the body now purified with divinity or the oversoul. Place within the star thus enclosed the Egyptian emblem of life as seen here, and we symbolize immortality as the result of regeneration. Transform the circle into a serpent, and it now symbolizes wisdom as the crown or result of equilibrium, and is also a double glyphic of the return of matter to its source in spirit. Separate the tongue and tail of the serpent by a Thur's hammer or swastika enclosed within a circle, and it symbolizes regeneration through conquest of animal sense, precisely as taught in the lodge under the spiritual meaning of the symbol of the compass. Freemasonry is the subjugation of the human, that is in man, by the divine, the conquest of the appetites and passions by the moral sense and reason, a continual effort, struggle, and warfare of the spiritual against the material and sensual. That victory, when it has been achieved and secured, and the conqueror may rest upon his shield and wear the well-earned laurels, is the true Holy Empire. The Masonic apron made of lambskin symbolizes innocence or purity, the condition required of candidates in all real initiation. The shape of the apron is that of a perfect square surmounted by a triangle. We have here the 3 and the 4, making 7, the triangle representing spirit, the square representing matter, the triangle representing the threefold attributes of the one, the square representing the 4 elements. As spirit, the triangle represents or is symbolized by heat, light, and flame. The entered apprentice starts on his career with the triangle surmounting the square. Spirit has not yet descended into matter. As he progresses, the descent takes place, and we have the triangle in the square as heretofore illustrated. And finally, as a master, the ascent of the square into the triangle begins, which every master mason will understand. Masonry being a progressive science, the progress of the neophyte is thus made to conform to the process of evolution and the descent of spirit into matter. And this is illustrated by the manner in which he is taught to wear his apron in each degree in the Blue Lodge. The entered apprentice is not only a hewer of wood and a drawer of water, but he is a novice taking his first instruction, and this is symbolized by his apron. The tradition of the master's word, of the power which its possession gives to the master, the story of its loss and the search for its recovery, the tradition of the Ineffable Name in connection with the lost word, showing that it could not or should not be pronounced except with bated breath. Or as the Hindu tradition declares, with the hand covering the mouth. The symbolism of the 3 greater and 3 lesser lights, and the play made in many places on the word light itself, in conjunction with the lost word, All these references and uses constitute a complicated symbolism working in and toward a common center or glyphic, which, taken in conjunction with the building and restoration of the temple, constitute the secret symbolism of Masonry and illustrate the whole process of initiation. What real initiation is has been outlined in a previous chapter. These symbols, when correctly interpreted, serve two purposes. First, they reveal a complete philosophy of the creation of the universe and of man, unfolding all essences, powers, and potencies, and their mutual relations and correlations. Second, they unfold the process or initiation as synonymous with the uninterrupted evolution of man, guided by knowledge and design along the lines of least resistance. In the third degree, the candidate impersonates Hiram, who has been shown to be identical with the Christos of the Greeks and with the sun gods of all other nations. The superiority of Masonry at this point over all exoteric religions consists in this. All these religions take the symbol for the thing symbolized. Christ was originally like the Father. Now he is made identical with the Father. In deifying Jesus, the whole of humanity is bereft of Christos as an eternal potency within every human soul, a latent Christ in every man. In thus deifying one man, they have orphaned the whole of humanity. On the other hand, Masonry, in making every candidate personify Hiram, has preserved the original teaching, which is a universal glyphic. Few candidates may be aware that Hiram, whom they have represented and personified, is ideally and precisely the same as Christ. Yet such is undoubtedly the case. This old philosophy shows what Christ as a glyphic means and how the Christ state results from real initiation or from the evolution of the human into the divine. Regeneration is thus given a meaning that is both apprehensible and attainable, both philosophical and scientific, and at once ideal and practical. In the Tetragrammaton, or four-lettered name of deity, the Greek followers of Pythagoras found a glyphic by which they both expressed and concealed their philosophy. And it is the Hebrew tetrad IHVH, or Yod He Vav He, that is introduced into Masonry with the Pythagorean art speech. The devout Hebrew, in reading the sacred text, when he came to the tetrad IAVH, substituted the word Adonai, Lord. And if the word was written with the points of Alhim, he called it Elohim. This custom is preserved in Masonry by giving the candidate a substitute for the master's word. The Hebrew tetrad Yod He Vav He is produced by repeating the He. The root word is a triad, and the quaternary is undoubtedly a blind. The sacred word is found in the mysteries as a binary, a trinary, and a quaternary. As with the Hindus, we have the OM and the AUM, indicating different methods of pronouncing the sacred name. The Pythagorean tetractys is represented by numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 equals 10, and by points or yods in the form of a triangle. This is called the lesser tetractys, while a triangle composed of 8 rows in the same form and containing 36 yards or points is called the greater tetractys. This corresponds to the 3 lesser lights and 3 greater lights of the Blue Lodge, though the monitorial explanations in the lodge are, to say the least, incomplete. In the Pythagorean philosophy, both the lesser and greater tetractys are represented by equilateral triangles, and the points in either case form the angles of a series of lesser triangles. In the lesser tetractys, these triangles arc altogether 9, or 3 times 3. In the greater, they count 49, or 7 times 7, and in each case the series runs from apex to base 1, 3, 5 for the lesser, and 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13 for the greater tetractys, or by a series of odd numbers, while the points before the triangles are formed run consecutively 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These symbols were thus used as odd and even to carry a philosophical meaning and to illustrate the doctrine of emanation. In the Pythagorean system, spirit is everywhere represented as the universal. All a multitude must necessarily issue from one, and that one is spirit. All emanations and subdivisions must therefore be related to the one by absolute geometry, perfect forms, and absolute mathematics, perfect numbers and movements. In the 47th problem, so famous in ancient philosophy and far older than Pythagoras or Euclid, we have a symbol of the perfect proportions between number and forms, between spirit and matter, and between universals and particulars. And this is a constant symbol in Masonic lodges. In the Pythagorean triangle or tetrad, this same philosophy is symbolized. Proposition. Subdivide a regular figure in such a manner that the subdivisions shall be the same shape as the figure and 16 in number, and with 4 or the subdivisions bounding each side of the figure. 16 is that square of 4 or the tetractys. The triangle series is of odd numbers, the square even. The 10 yods occupy all the upright triangle divisions. Quoted with plate from print by Fred G. P. Ummer. This Pythagorean method of philosophizing according to numbers has not only fallen into disuse in modern times, but has often been deemed altogether fanciful and been subject to ridicule, simply because the philosophy upon which it is based is lost. It originally constituted the art speech, or glyphics, in which that philosophy was expressed, and to understand the one is to recover the other. This philosophy bridged the gap between mind and matter through apprehension of the one underlying law. It connected physics with metaphysics through the science of mathematics, or the relations of number to form, or of equilibrium to motion. The adept knew the relations between the movements, vibrations, that produce thought, those that produce form, those that produce color, and those that produce light and sound, and the number of these in each case. The source of all these is a trinity, the form of emanation a septenary, hence the play upon the formula 3 times 3 and 7 times 7. The first postulate of this philosophy has been shown in a previous chapter to be abstract space and abstract absolute motion. And this absolute motion is that of the primordial atoms, thus constituting the center which is everywhere and the circumference which is nowhere, i.e. fills all space. It is necessary, however, to remind the reader that these atoms are not those of modern science, or those that compose what we call matter, for the reason that they are, one and all, endowed, potentially, with consciousness, life, and intelligence, and are equally world builders and man builders. They are the vehicles and the basis of all law in nature. They form alike the moving panorama of thought and the tides of the restless sea, the beating of the human heart and the revolutions of suns and solar systems, the breath of an infant and the breath of Brahma. There's universal and eternal unity and equilibrium in the midst of universal diversity, perpetual involution of spirit or essence, and endless evolution of form and variety. And back of all, the one eternal principle, unknown and forever unknowable, without beginning, without end, without change. Space is the mantle that forever conceals him. Abstract, absolute motion is his fiat. Creation is his logos, word, speech, expression, will, thought, call it what you will. Man is a spark from this flame, and in the last analysis, as incomprehensible to himself as God. This spark of divinity in man is his consciousness, and this, in a previous chapter, we have postulated as a fact, nothing more. This brings us to the origin of the tetractys, the origin of the ineffable name, the lost word. The Hebrews seem to have derived their tetractys from the Chaldo-Egyptian mysteries, and these may be traced to the Zoroastrian fire philosophy, till finally the word is Aum. In both Persian or Zend and in Sanskrit, the 3 letters are found in many names that designate fire, flame, spirit, essence, etc. This again is a glyphic or form of expression. Every emanation is a trinity, and fire, flame, and light are the most perfect synthesis of this trinity. Consider the expressions, the Lord is a consuming fire, since God is light, and never but in unapproached light dwelt from eternity, etc. The symbol is found in all scriptures, but only in the mysteries was the meaning thus symbolized made known. Here, then, is the origin of all the trinities found in Masonry, the plainest of which are the trinities of light, and the most superficial explanations are found connected with the 3 lesser lights of the lodge. The primitive holy symbol, composed of 3 letters in which the Vedic triad is comprehended, ought to be kept secret like another triple Veda. He who knows the mystic value of this syllable knows the Veda. Laws of Manu, Book 11, number 265. The mortal who draws nigh unto fire will have a light from divinity, Chaldean oracle. In every world shines forth a triad, whereof the principle is unity, Chaldean oracle. It is necessary to know that the divine name of its indwelling potency, and which is a symbol of the impression of the demiurgos, according to which it does not go forth from its being, is ineffable and secret, and known only to the gods themselves. The legend of the lost word and the potency of the ineffable name are inseparable. They are the glyphics of paradise lost and paradise regained, or of the fall and the redemption of man. So also is the legend of rebuilding the temple, a glyphic of initiation, which is the same as regeneration and evolution. This ancient wisdom belongs in a special sense to Masonry, for it has done most of any organization of modern times to preserve the ancient landmarks, and has honored and protected the sacred symbols. If Masonry has made only a superficial use of these hoary secrets and their deeper meaning is still unknown to the craft, it is equally unknown to all others, except as the result of genuine initiation. One may know that a thing exists where it is to be found, and that it is above all price, without knowing to the last analysis what it is. Such is the secret to the lost word, or the ineffable name. Its secret lies in exact vibrations under mathematical and synchronous relations, and its law is equilibrium, or eternal harmony. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment, and if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.